Hey everybody, GC13 here. Season 5 of Summer Camp Island was heavily focused on the past. One arc looked at the origin of Barb, the elves, and the magic diamond itself. Another showed us how Betsy met Ghost the Boy. Still another showed us a young Susie and her little sister Mildred. And boy did they not depart on good terms. You might recall that an episode of Season 4, Spirit Balls, got me thinking that Mildred was secretly a member of Susie's coven. And now, we have some more circumstantial evidence to add to the pile. I didn't randomly decide that I thought Emma was Mildred. The whole thing stemmed from noticing the books that Emma had on the table at the end of Spirit Balls, which showed us that Mildred had authored a book about soul transferring. At the time I thought of some reasons Mildred might want to move her soul to another body, but now we have a couple more. From the moment she was born, Mildred could use powerful magic. Magic too powerful for her to control. Her parents eventually left to the frozen north to find something to help her. But transferring her soul to another body would also bring her magic down to controllable levels. We also learned that Mildred needed a fresh start with other people, even more than we had thought. Oh yes, it wasn't just witches who were mad at her. Her tantrum eventually ushered in a whole new era of emotional repression, with people still bringing her up by name and making very accurate chalk drawings more than a century after the fact. Mildred also had another problem that a soul transfer would fix. Susie is an immortal 15-year-old, and over the entire series, we've seen the effects of that cheap drugstore potion. Like it said on the bottle, it stunted all forms of growth, including emotional growth. It's only been in the latest seasons that Susie has shown any signs of self-improvement, and she's been having to fight for it every step of the way. But if Susie has been so bad as an immortal 15-year-old, Mildred was an immortal 13-year-old. While talking to her brand new ghost friend, Mildred realized that it was her youthful exuberance that had messed things up. And she should have just done what Susie had asked her to do. She should have been more reserved. But again, that potion stunted all forms of growth, so until she got rid of its effects somehow, she would always remain fundamentally herself. And think about Emma. If I had to describe her in a single word, reserved would be awfully high on the list of words that came to mind. Rather than having to stop and realize that a situation calls for reservedness, Emma has grown to a point where it's second nature to her. She doesn't even talk unless she's chanting as part of a witchy ritual. But Season 5 gave us more reasons to look curiously at Emma and Mildred. It's not just that Emma is the kind of person who Mildred might have wanted to become after her lack of reserve lost her her sister. A few more facts stand out. Remember, this theory began when I was watching Emma transfer the spirit of a soggy old log into a flower to make herself a friend. That spirit looked quite similar to a ghost. He's opaque while you can see through ghosts, but that's about it. And what do you know? One of the first things Mildred does after storming off into the wild is befriend that ghost I mentioned earlier. But, she didn't burp this one out. Yep, she's Susie's sister all right. It wasn't just befriending a ghost she accidentally made either. She very intentionally tried to create herself a replacement sister, only to realize that she didn't have the technique to make a good one. Don't you find it really interesting that one of Emma's great mysteries, her use of soul transfer to create herself wilderness friends, is so closely related to what we saw Mildred do at the start of her solitude? On top of that, Mildred's backstory ties her to frogs far more closely than anyone could have ever predicted. In Meeting of the Minds, we just saw Mildred playing with a frog, but now we know that because of her magical condition, just about every spell she casts has frogs involved in it somewhere. Even if she just used magic to change her body rather than transferring into a whole new one, Mildred would probably only be able to turn herself into a frog. If she did do a soul transfer, we know she'd always have a frog at hand, and would certainly feel quite comfortable around them. Why not be one too? And finally, in my video, I noted that far and away it was Emma who was bothered by Susie the most. At the time I just chalked it up to Mildred not liking being told what to do, and Susie being quite bossy. But now we have an even better reason for the irritation. Mildred wants Susie to apologize to her. I mean, she wants them to apologize to each other. But admitting fault is not one of Susie's strong points. Whenever she talks about Mildred, and to hear Ramona tell it, she brings it up often, Susie puts up a wall to protect herself, and paints Mildred as 100% the bad guy. If Mildred were to hear how Susie talked about her, then that would probably hurt a lot. And, well, as I said, Emma has probably heard the tale a fair few times by now, and the way Susie talks about Mildred probably makes it sound like them reconciling is impossible. That would hurt. So there you have it. Season 5 brought us a lot more reasons to think that Emma is Mildred, especially with Mildred herself finally being brought into the story. We know that Mildred's tale isn't over yet. The way her ship departed for the frozen north at exactly the same time Susie's left for America tells me we're going to find out how her trip went someday. I think we'll have to wait for Season 7, since the odd-numbered December seasons seem to be getting more backstory in them. But don't forget that Spirit Balls was in an otherwise present-focused season. Either way, color me quite intrigued, since I think we already know where she finally ends up. What do you guys think? Did Season 5 convince you Emma is Mildred, or do you still want to wait and see? Do you think more Mildred is coming in Season 6? Or in Season 7? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more cartoon videos.